Title?
Book haul. Birthday book haul.
Birthday book haul!
Dun, dun, dun.
It's your birthday. It's your birthday. Gonna book haul like it's your birthday. Read some pages like it's your birthday. And you know we don't use a bookmark because it's your birthday.
No, we still do. We
Never.
still use bookmarks. Hello, bookworms! Today I'm going to be doing an enormous birthday book haul for you. July is my birthday month, so I went all out and I have so many books. So happy birthday to me. And here we go. You will notice that the vast majority of the books that I have picked up lately are all fantasy books, and there's a lot of adult fantasy, there's a lot of new fantasy, there's old fantasy, just all the fantasy. I'm gonna get started. So first actually is a book that I am really excited about and I cannot wait to read it. It's called It's Your Universe, and it's by Ashley Eckstein, who is the designer of Her Universe, which, if you don't know, she makes fandom clothes. A lot of them are sold at like Hot Topic, and she has her own website, and she, started before her Hot Topic deal, and she does a lot of things for Disney, just like amazing clothes for women. She was really like one of the pioneers in getting geek fashion to be like cute and fashionable and not just graphic t-shirts like I'm wearing right now. She's also a voice actress, and she actually does the voice of Ahsoka Tano on Clone Wars, and she's just one of the sweetest people in the world. I've had the pleasure of meeting her like tons of times, and she is just so nice and so inspiring, and every time that I see her she still remembers who I am, and she's just like a lovely, like genuinely amazing person, and I can't wait to read her book. A new book that I got that I'm pretty excited about is Kill the Farm Boy by Delilah S. Dawson and Kevin Hearn. And this book was actually sent to me by Random House, so thank you very much, Random House. But I have been very much anticipating this one because it is a new fantasy story. I believe it does exactly what the title says, To Kill the Farm Boy. It follows like a seemingly ordinary boy, and it's supposed to be very humorous and just makes fun of a whole bunch of fantasy tropes and kind of turns the story that you're used to on its head, and it sounds like it's going to be really good. So if you're somebody that really enjoys fantasy, I would recommend checking this one out. I know I have been very excited for it, and if Delilah S. Dawson sounds familiar, that's because she wrote the Captain Phasma novel, which came out last year, I believe. I have not read that one yet, but I actually just ordered it recently. Then I got the UK hardcover version of Circe by Madeline Miller. This is a book that's been getting a lot of buzz lately. It's an adult fantasy novel, and it reimagines the story of Circe, and I've heard really good things about it, and I haven't read her first book yet, which is The Song of Achilles, but I want to read that too, but I just couldn't pass up this gorgeous cover. It's so shiny and pretty, and I needed it. I also got the UK hardcover of Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This is another one that I cannot wait to read. I read Uprooted very recently, and that is now one of my favorite books of all time, and I can't wait to read this one. Uprooted was such a slow burn fantasy, and I was just so invested in the story and the characters, and I honestly still think about it a lot. So I really love Naomi Novik's writing, and I'm just like so thrilled to read this one. Then my friend Cassie on Instagram, her name is Cassiopeia Books. She has a book blog, and she did a post about the like top 5 books that she collects, and she had a beautiful shelf of The Night Circus. I'll try to leave a link down below. I have to remember to do that to her blog post, but she has like some of the most amazing editions of a ton of books, and as soon as I saw her Night Circus shelf, I immediately started hunting for this gorgeous hardcover edition that I am obsessed with. I love the cover. Like, I think this is my favorite Night Circus cover that I've ever seen. But look at this spine. Like, just look at that moon. I was like, what? I will sell my first child for this book. Not that I'm planning on having a first child, but it's so, so pretty. And it has like, look at these end papers. Gorgeous. It comes with like a red ribbon bookmark, and then has a clock. It's just the prettiest edition of The Night Circus that I've ever laid eyes on, and I ordered my copy on Abe Books in case you are trying to find a copy yourself. Oh, also the pages are sprayed black. Love this. Thank you, Cassie, for alerting me to this existence. I also got a copy of Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. Mira Grant is actually a pen name for Shauna Maguire, and I love Shauna Maguire's other books in her Wayward Children series, and I also really want to read her October Day series and her Increpid series, but I haven't gotten to those yet. This is about like scary mermaids, and it sounds like it's gonna be so good. I know Riley from Riley Marie read it and she really enjoyed it, and I actually had heard about it on her channel first, like a really long time ago, when she was just saying that she was excited for it to come out, and I bought it, and then like a week later she posted a vlog and she read it in that vlog and she ended up enjoying it. So I was like, okay, now I feel even better about my decision to get this book. I also got the first book in the Parasol Protectorate series by Gallagher. This one's called Soulless. I have not read this series and I feel like I should have, but the reason that I didn't is because I read the first book in her other series, which was Espionage and Etiquette, or Etiquette and Espionage, and I did not like that book. So I was kind of turned off from her since then, but the Parasol Protectorate series just seems to be like so beloved from people that love fantasy. It has a lot of elements in it that sound like I would really enjoy them, so I decided that I'm gonna give her another shot and pick this one up, and hopefully I enjoy it. Then I got a finished copy of City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. They actually released the cover for the second novel recently, and it is really beautiful, but I have not read this one yet, and I really need to do so. I've heard really good things about it. Again, this is another adult fantasy series, and it takes place in 18th century Cairo, and just really sounds like something that I'm going to love. Then I got the Minalima edition of The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgkin Burnett. I can never say her name. This is a book that I've been meaning to read for a really long time. I think I'm gonna love it. I really tend to enjoy children's classics like very much, so I'm looking forward to getting to this one like very soon, especially because I completely fell off of my classics challenge for the year, and I would like to sneak a few more in there before the year ends. I also got the Barnes & Noble edition of Charlotte's Web. This is rather large. It's actually the same size as my Winnie the Pooh book, which is kind of exciting because that was the only oversized classic that I had from there, and now I have like at least something else that goes with it. But I remember reading this when I was young and I really loved it, and Barnes & Noble just does like such pretty classic editions, so I got it. I need to organize my piles better because I just realized that this was one of the first books that I wanted to talk about. But I'm so excited. I ended up getting an arc of Kingdom of the Blazing Phoenix by Julie C. Dow. This is the second book after Forest of a Thousand Lanterns, and I loved Forest of a Thousand Lanterns so very much. I read it like very soon after BEA last year and just like totally fell in love with Julie's writing and the protagonist, who is like the evil queen, and then this one follows the Snow White character, and I cannot wait to see how the story is going to progress. I loved the world. It was Asian inspired fantasy, and it was just like a breath of fresh air, and I am still obsessed with that book, and I cannot wait to read this one. And then I posted a boomerang of it in my Instagram story because I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna cry, this book just came in the mail, I can't wait to read it. And Julie actually replied to me and she was like, hey, check the acknowledgements, with a winking face. And I was like, no. So when I got home, I checked it out, and there I am. It says Kristen from Super Space Chick. She mentioned me in the acknowledgements, and I'm dead now, and you're talking to my ghost. I'm so freaking excited. You have no idea. And this is definitely going to be one of the books that I pick up the soonest. I also picked up a finished copy of Children of Blood and Bone because for some reason I didn't own this, and I really loved it, and I had to change that. It was weird that I didn't already have it. Then my cousins, Rachel, Riley, Carmody, and my Aunt Sandy and Uncle Matt sent me Lore, which is the second book in the series of lore books. This one's called Wicked Mortals, and I haven't read the first one yet. I got that one like last month, I believe, but I've been watching the show and I really like it. I think all of the storytelling is like so well done, and I cannot wait to start reading these books. I think that they're going to be perfect for like October. Penguin was also kind enough to send me a copy of Always Never Yours by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca, and I believe the two of them are actually married and they were high school sweethearts. And this story just sounds like so endearing and like such a cute contemporary, and it follows a girl in high school, and I believe she's going to be in a production of Romeo and Juliet. And yeah, so it just has like a ton of elements that I love between contemporary romance and Shakespeare, and it's supposed to be funny, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. Then I finally got the Ravenclaw editions of The Chamber of Secrets. I have not yet decided if I want to get all of the other ones. I got the first book in every single house, but I don't know that I'm gonna get every single book in every single house, but I had to get Ravenclaw. I love the pages, These are blue too. Like, they're just so pretty. And then this one, I mean, well, both of them, but got Rowena Ravenclaw, a Ravenclaw introduction, the Hogwarts Castle. And look at that Ravenclaw common room. I want to live there. I also got The Mermaid by Christina Henry. She's written a bunch of like dark fairy tale retellings, and this one is a Little Mermaid retelling, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. There's been so many mermaid books lately, and it's been great. As I said, like, I'm just so into fantasy. Like, I don't know. Fantasy is all that I want to read. And I have really wanted to start reading some of Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. And there are so many different, like, worlds within that world. But I knew that I wanted to start with the witches. So I bought the first 3 books in the witches series within the Discworld series. They have it all outlined on Goodreads in case you want to, like, look it up and check it out. Book Depository just has these like super pretty hardcovers, and I was like, yeah, it's time. So the first one is Equal Rights. The second one is Word Sisters. And then this is the third one, Witches Abroad. Hoping these piles don't fall. Then I got the UK hardcover edition of Legendary because I am obsessed with this book. This was such a great read, and oh man, I cannot wait for the finale, which is actually called Finale. I'm really looking forward to reading that, but this is just really pretty, and I have a UK edition of Caraval, so I was like, you know what, I may as well get this one too, and then have both the US and UK versions of these. Then Simon & Schuster sent me an adorable little mailer box, and it has first books that all have sequels that are coming out very soon. So I'm really looking forward to diving into some of these. One of them I was planning on reading in July, but I kind of got into a little bit of a reading slump and I didn't get a chance to read it just yet, but I am going to read it before the second book comes out. That one is The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell. I love this cover. It's so pretty, and it's the series that follows a magician in New York City years and years and years ago. I can't remember the exact time period, but I had started reading it and I really, really loved it, and I feel like this has potential to be a favorite book. They also sent me This Mortal Coil by Emily Suvada, and this book I read last year actually, and I really loved it. It was like a really surprising favorite book of the year for me. It's a sci-fi book and it's a biological thriller. It was so exciting, and there is like this disease that's going around and an evil corporation, and it follows the daughter of a super famous geneticist, and it was just so good. They also sent the first book in the Diabolic series. This is another sci-fi, and I haven't read this one yet, but I really plan on doing so very soon. And lastly in that box was The Becoming of Noah Shaw, and this is the first book in the Noah Shaw, I think it's going to be a trilogy that is, you know, takes place after the Mara Dyer trilogy, and Noah was a character within there that people love. I actually never read the Mara Dyer series, so let me know if I should read that first before I read this one. I don't know if I'll be confused. I'll have to do some research on that. I also picked up this beautiful looking book. It's called Bring Me Their Hearts by Sarah Wolf. I was just so drawn to this cover, and I actually first learned about it in a video that was done by Holly from Holly Hearts Books. I discover a lot of really good fantasy from her, so thank you, Holly. But as soon as I saw this in her, I believe it was the book haul video, I was like, yep, I'm gonna order that. We still have so many books to go. So the next 2 books were actually sent to me from Jane by It's Jane Lindsay. So thank you so much, Jane. You're the best. Jane is my friend that I hung out with for like all of BEA and BookCon. We were just like best book buddies, and it was amazing. And Jane is hilarious and just such a wonderful person. And I'm so thankful that I actually got to like spend time with her, because we met briefly at the BEA in Chicago a couple of years ago, but we didn't actually like hang out, but this time we spent like all of our time together, and it was awesome. But she sent me a copy of The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee, and this is the original edition of it. So I have the Owl Crate edition, but I never got this one, and she had an extra, so she sent it my way. So thank you very much, because I really love this color. Like, I just think this is the prettiest color spine ever. And then she was also kind enough to get me a copy of In an Absent Dream by Shauna McGuire. This is the next book in the Wayward Children series. I'm so excited to read it. I'm so glad that Shauna McGuire is writing more than just the originally planned trilogy, and I seriously will just read everything that is in the series. They're all so short, but they're such great reads, and Jane actually got this for me when she went to ALA. Then in here there was a little surprise too. She got me the cutest Nevermore postcards. I just love them. They're darling. So thank you so much again, Jane. I'm like so excited to read this, and I love it. The cover is so beautiful too. This is like one of my favorite fantasy series. Every book is so different and so well done, and like there's not a lot of like superfluous writing. It's very to the point, and you get this complete and satisfying story in like under 200 pages, and I don't know how Shauna McGuire does it. It's magic. Then I got another adult fantasy book that was recommended by Holly from Holly Hearts Books. Actually, 3 of them. So the first one is The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. This is an adult fantasy novel. It's quite large. Probably gonna take me a really long time to read this. And I don't even know what it's about, but I trust Holly. And Holly was also just raving about these books. So I got the first and second book in this series. This one is Senlin Ascends, and this one is Arm of the Sphinx. They're both by Josiah Bancroft, and she just like, I mean, when she was reading it, she actually specifically messaged me and was like, Kristen, you're gonna love this book. You have to get it. Get it now. And I was like, okay. When Holly tells me to get something, I will get it. So I did, and I haven't read them yet, but I'm really, really looking forward to. And I think the third book is coming out in January, so I have a little time to catch up, which is good. Then the novel was kind enough to send me Grace and Fury by Tracy Banghart. This sounds like it's going to be really good. It follows 2 sisters. One of them is in the palace and one of them is in prison. So one of them was basically like trained to be a Grace for her entire life. Now something has happened and the 2 of them have kind of like had to switch places. Like the only way for one sister to save the other was to take her place. So the one who was trained to be a Grace actually ends up being in prison, and the other sister has to try to become a Grace and like learn all of these court rules and stuff in order to save her sister. And this one, even though it's an arc, it's actually out already, so you can go ahead and pick that up. Then Random House sent me a copy of Age of War by Michael Sullivan. I am really looking forward to reading some of Michael Sullivan's books. This sadly, well, not sadly, but this is book 3, the Legends of First Empire series. So I actually don't have the first 2 books and I need to get them before I can read this one. But I am glad to have this one so that I can complete the collection when I'm ready to. And I obviously don't want to read the back of it because that would, I'm sure, spoil the first 2 books. I also got the US hardcover of Godsgrave by Jay Kristoff. I have Nevernight in the US edition, and then I have Godsgrave in the UK edition, and I also got Nevernight in the UK edition. And then I but like when they revealed the cover for the US edition of the 3rd book, which is called Dark Dawn, I was like, oh my god, that cover is like stunningly beautiful. So then I felt like I had to get Godsgrave in the US edition too, so that I can have a complete set of both of them. Sadly, Dark Dawn actually got pushed back. It's not being released until, I want to say, September of 2019 instead of September of this year. That gives me more time to read the 2nd book because I haven't done so yet. I also got a copy of Hocus Pocus and the all-new sequel. This is a new novel that is celebrating the 20th anniversary of Hocus Pocus, which makes me feel so very old. I've been watching this movie since I was a kid, like every single year on Halloween. I just love it, and Andrew and I watch it together now on Halloween, so I was really, really excited when I heard about this one coming out. It takes place in present day, and it follows Poppy, who is the 17-year-old daughter of Max and Allison, and she has her own run-in with the Sanderson sisters, and it just sounds like it's going to be so wonderful. And I've heard that there is queer representation within this book, but I haven't read it yet, so I don't know like totally what it is. I'm really glad that they like updated the story, and I just think that I'm gonna love this. This is gonna be another October read for me. I also got this book, which is called Master Assassins by Robert V.S. Reddick. And you know what? I was reading a blog post on Unbound Worlds, which is a sci-fi and fantasy book blog. They had like a list of good fantasy books that you should check out, and this one was on there, and I read the synopsis and I was like, that does sound really good. So I got it, and then I was even more pleasantly surprised when it arrived and it had a blurb right on the front from Patrick Rothfuss that says, "This book has everything I love," because Name of the Wind is my favorite book, like, ever. I also got Campfire by Sean Sarles. This is a YA horror novel, and I already read it and I really loved it, and I should have a wrap-up out for it soon. The end is in sight. I got the first part of The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This book is just enormous, but I have Mistborn in these UK paperbacks, so I decided to get The Way of Kings in the same format, but they don't sell the entire book. They only sell part 1 and part 2. So part 1 is still very large, but I decided that I will start reading it, and if I enjoy it, then I'll order part 2. And then there's also a couple more books that are already out. I also got The Burning Page by Genevieve Cogman. This is the 3rd book in the Invisible Library series. This is an adult fantasy series, and I don't want to read the synopsis of this because I haven't read the first one yet. It sounded really good. I know that they read it for the Sword and Laser book club, which is a podcast that I listen to, and I've been meaning to check it out, but I got it on Book Outlet for pretty cheap. Then I got the illustrated edition of Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. This is illustrated by Chris Riddell. I read this book so many years ago, and I really enjoyed it, and I've been wanting to give all of Neil Gaiman's books a reread, so I figured this would be a good time to pick it up and check out the new illustrations. And then speaking of Neil Gaiman, they did some really cool paperback fantasy editions of his adult novels, and I had to get them. They're just so cool. They're the weirdest shape. They like don't match anything else that I own, but I really like the covers because they're just so like kind of cheesy fantasy. The first one that I was obviously most drawn to is Stardust. Then I've got Neverwhere, American Gods, and Anansi Boys. I also have The Cheerleaders by Kara Thomas. This I'm so excited to read. I'm actually doing a Storygram tour photo for it, so that will be on my Instagram in the coming days if it's not up there already. It's like YA horror, and it just sounds like it's gonna be super good. I also got Stolen Enchantress by Amber Argyle. This book feels like it was like self-published. It has that like kind of matted, like not publishing house look to it, but it sounded really good. I believe it's like a Beauty and the Beast inspired book. It might be a retelling. It looks super good. I can't remember where I first heard about it. And I got Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson, which is the first book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. I remember always looking at this book at the Strand and Barnes & Noble like years ago and always wanting to get it, but I just never did. And I found it on Book Outlet, so I was like, I guess now is the time to grab a copy. It's an adult fantasy, and I couldn't tell you anything more than that. And finally, the last books that I got, there's I think 13 of them because it is a series, but they're not going to be in order at all because I don't know the order and it's not numbered. I was really in the mood for some urban fantasy, and I started reading Dead Witch Walking by Kim Harrison, and I'm really loving it so far, and I ended up ordering the rest of the series. I think this is going to be like a favorite. So got Dead Witch Walking, White Witch Black Curse, Every Which Way But Dead, The Outlaw Demon Whales, The Good, the Bad, and the Undead, Ever After, pretty sure this is one of the later ones, A Perfect Blood, The Witch with No Name, The Turn, and I think that this one is actually either the last one or like maybe the first one in a new series but in the same world, Pale Demon, A Fistful of Charms, For a Few Demons More, The Undead Pool, and Black Magic Sanction. And this series follows a witch named Rachel who is part of this like corporation where she goes on assignments and finds like delinquent kind of magical creatures or mythical creatures, but she is getting stuck with like really bad cases, so she decides that she kind of wants to break out on her own and start her own agency. That's about as far as I have gotten, but it's an urban fantasy, it's an adult fantasy series, and it's really just fun and quick, and I'm looking forward to just binge reading this series. And now I'm not allowed to buy books in August because that was a ridiculous book haul, so I'll be reading for the rest of my life. Let me know if there was anything in there that you are interested in reading, that you've read already, that you think I should get to sooner than some of the other books. I know there was like so many things to choose from, but yeah, that is all that I have for this video, so I will see you guys soon in a new one. Bye!